Today on Rappler. The Sultan of Sulu says he will ask the U.S. government to intervene in Sabah. President Aquino signs a law recognizing human rights violations during the martial law years. And British Cardinal Keith O'Brien resigns following allegations of inappropriate conduct. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. With the ongoing standoff in Sabah, the spokesman of self-proclaimed Sulu Sultan says Jamalul Kiram III will ask the U.S. government to help reclaim the territory from Malaysia. Spokesman Abraham Ijirani says the 1915 Kiram Carpenter Agreement assures the Sultans of America's protection. Quote, should a problem arise in Sabah between the Sultan of Sulu and other foreign countries. Ijirani says they have evidence Sabah belongs to them and the Malaysian government is paying rental fees to the Sultan of Sulu. He explains the British Empire had been paying them the equivalent of 5,300 ringgit in Mexican gold coins since 1870. Ijirani adds, quote, we have receipts of their payments. The spokesman also says the Sultan has not changed his orders to the 180 Filipinos defying Malaysian forces and staying in Sabah. President Benigno Aquino commemorates the 27th anniversary of the EDSA Revolution by signing the Human Rights Victims Reparation and Recognition Act of 2013. In a speech Monday at the People Power Monument, Aquino says the enactment of the law will help heal the wounds of victims of martial law abuses.
Kabilang po ng iba pang mga nagsulong ng batas na ito, tiniyak nilang hindi man maibabalik ang panahon na ninakaw sa mga biktima ng batas militar. Masisiguro naman ang pagkilala ng Estado sa kanilang pinagdaanan. At nang sa gayon ay mailapit sila sa tuluyang paghihilom ng mga sugat na nakaraan.
Under the law, some 10 billion funds recovered from the Swiss bank accounts of late dictator Ferdinand Marcos will be appropriated for victims' reparation. 80% of the amount will be sent for existing claims and 20% for future ones. The law also creates the Human Rights Violations Victims Memorial Commission. The palace says the commission aims to, quote, educate young people about the abuses committed by the Marcos regime and the heroism by those who opposed it. The event marks the 27th anniversary of the 1986 EDSA People Power Revolution, a peaceful uprising that ended the 21-year reign of Ferdinand Marcos. Team Pinoy campaign manager Franklin Drilon says the administration slate wants to stop mudslinging and refuses to fire back. On Sunday, United Nationalist Alliance campaign manager Toby Chanco accused Drilon of pushing for a 12-0 win for Team Pinoy because of his supposed bid for the Senate presidency. In a press conference Monday, Drilon says, I will not dignify those statements because I'm not a candidate. Drilon says the issues of the election should be focused on the principles of the parties. Last week, the Diocese of Bacolod campaigned against 5 of the administration's senatorial candidates, Senators Chis Escudero, Lauren Legarda, Alan Peter Cayetano, former Akbayan Representative Risa Ontiveros, and Aurora Representative Sunny Angara for supporting the controversial reproductive health bill. Drilon says the coalition disagrees with the church but will not respond. He adds, quote, we are saddened by that decision, but we will respect it. Leave it to the people to decide. The Commission on Elections tells all of the president's bets to remove all of their illegal posters. COMELEC Legal Department head Esmeralda Ladra says the poll body has written all 12 senatorial bets of Team Pinoy for an alleged campaign violation. Ladra says a poster of the Liberal Party-led coalition's group photo was found on an electric post in a Parañaque City subdivision. Under COMELEC rules, the poll body will charge them with an election offense if they fail to remove the illegal poster within a 3-day grace period. She says COMELEC will also charge 2 partyless groups, Piston and Kabataan, for failing to take down their illegal posters even after the grace period. COMELEC Resolution number 9615 prohibits the posting of campaign or propaganda materials outside authorized common poster areas in public places or in private properties without the consent of the owner. A citizen reports the oil spill from a cargo ship that sank a week ago near Pangasinan has not been fully contained and is now contaminating the surfing beaches of La Union. Local surfer Mickey Galangs from San Juan, La Union says traces of fuel have been found on beaches in at least 3 towns in the area. Galang says several surfer clubs are now conducting cleanup operations on the beaches in La Union, which is a popular surfing destination. The surfers informed the Coast Guard about the situation Sunday. Galang posted several pictures of the aspect of the beaches on her Facebook account. Laura Riavitz, a marine biologist in La Union, says the oil spill is, quote, a hazard to marine and terrestrial animals as they may eat them. At least 1 person died and 14 others, all Burmese nationals, are still missing after the Panama-flagged cargo ship MV Harita Bauxite sank off Pangasinan on February 17th. Cardinal Keith O'Brien, the most senior Roman Catholic cleric in Britain, announces his resignation after being accused of inappropriate conduct. This comes following reports that 3 priests and a former priest complained about inappropriate behavior towards them in the 1980s. The cardinal denies the allegations. O'Brien's resignation is the second major shakeup in the Catholic Church after Pope Benedict XVI announced he's stepping down at the end of February. The resignation of Pope Benedict XVI this month sent shockwaves across the world, but Paterno Esmaquel reports no less than Pope John Paul II, the most beloved pope in recent history, thought about resigning from office.
By resigning, is Benedict XVI taking his cue from John Paul II? A best-selling book reveals John Paul's plan to quit the papacy. The book Why He Is a Saint contains his resignation letter, among other documented details, to support his case for sainthood. In the book, a letter by John Paul shows he considered retiring at 75, like ordinary bishops. The sickly John Paul asks his closest friends about this, consulting in particular with then Cardinal Ratzinger, prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. The book doesn't discuss the response of the German-born Joseph Ratzinger, who eventually becomes Pope Benedict XVI. It simply says John Paul abandoned the idea of a retirement age. In 2 letters, however, John Paul says cardinals should consider him resigned in the case of an infirmity that is judged to be incurable and that prevents me from exercising adequately the duties of the Petrine ministry. John Paul vows to carry on as long as he could. He tells a doctor in 1994, "You must heal me, and I must heal, because there is no place in the church for a Pope Emeritus." The last time he led Holy Week rites, John Paul says, "Jesus did not descend from the cross. Why should I? I have to make it to the end." 2 decades after he thought of resigning, his successor Benedict quits the papacy. He cites health reasons and says he recognizes his incapacity to adequately fulfill the ministry entrusted to him. In his biography published in 2010, he already says it's a pope's right and obligation to resign if he cannot fulfill his duties. Another telltale sign, he often prays at the tomb of the 13th century Saint Celestine V, who issued a decree allowing pontiffs to quit. A leading theologian who worked with then Cardinal Ratzinger, Father Catalino Arevalo, says Benedict made a reasonable decision.
It's a tremendous act of spiritual freedom and a tremendous act of courage, and it is a great legacy that he leaves behind in the church. And I think it is a great act of a great man.
Arevalo says Benedict's resignation clarifies the role of a Catholic pope.
By resigning, he makes it very clear the Pope is a servant of the Church, the title that has been used for centuries, Servus Servorum Dei, the servant of the servants of God. The Church is much bigger than the Pope. And here, when the Pope, as a human person, as a human being, reaches the point of inadequacy, that's as a human being, but the Church goes on, no?
Experts say the first resignation in 600 years will have a long-term impact on the Catholic Church. Despite their prominence, will this be the start of former popes roaming the corridors of the Vatican without influence, without a voice? Paterno Esmael Rappler, Manila.
Park Geun-hye was sworn in as South Korea's first female president Monday, February 25, vowing zero tolerance with provocation from North Korea. As leader of Asia's fourth largest economy, Park faces challenges, including slowing growth and soaring welfare costs in one of the world's most rapidly aging societies. Park calls on North Korea to, quote, abandon its nuclear ambitions without delay and rejoin the international community. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 1, it's the end of an era. Raul Castro announces Sunday he will step down as Cuba's president in 2018 after he finishes his final term. Castro says he aims to set 2 term limits and age caps for political office, including the presidency. He names rising political star Miguel Diaz-Canel first in the line of succession. At number 2, Pope Benedict XVI celebrates his last Sunday prayers in St. Peter's Square on February 24th, ahead of his formal resignation on Thursday. The Pope says God told him to devote himself to quiet contemplation, but says this does not mean he would abandon the Church. In recent days, speculative reports of gay sex scandals in the Vatican dominated headlines in Italian news. Vatican experts say the explosion of bad press is fed by carefully orchestrated leaks meant to weaken some papal contenders. At number 7, the Afghan government bars U.S. troops from operating in the province of Maidan Wardak after complaints that Afghans working for the Americans tortured and killed villagers in the area. The action reflects a distrust of international forces, a sentiment held by many Afghans who feel both U.S. forces and the Taliban are responsible for continued violence in the country. This follows Sunday's when 2 Taliban suicide bombers killed 3 members of Afghan security forces in 2 attacks, but police foil a 3rd attack in Kabul. And at number 8, the Philippines will be one of the first countries to get the first smartphone running the new Firefox OS, the world's first fully open mobile platform. The new smartphones are expected to be released the summer of 2013. The Firefox smartphone OS is an extension of the personalized web experience provided by the popular internet browser. Mozilla CEO Gary Kovacs says apps like Facebook and Twitter won't be distributed in just one app store, in keeping up with Mozilla's aim to free the web. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. At the climax of Hollywood's biggest night, the 85th Academy Awards, Ben Affleck's Iran hostage crisis drama Argo wins the coveted Best Film Oscar. Taiwan-born Ang Lee wins Best Director for spectacular 3D fantasy Life of Pi. Daniel Day-Lewis takes home his 3rd Best Actor trophy for Lincoln, and Jennifer Lawrence is crowned Best Actress for Silver Linings Playbook. Veteran filmmaker Steven Spielberg, whose presidential drama had the most nominations with 12 nods, went home without either of the top awards, Best Picture or Best Director.
It was in a huge binder, and I just...
Every story on Rappler has its own mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page, which crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories which have gotten the most votes and their mood meter. If we take a look today, we've had a weekend where this has actually been quite red, and just overnight it's turned green. From the Oscars, The Twilight is Razzie's Worst of 2012. This is over the weekend. That's 58% happy, 4% inspired, 30% amused. And it's been also an interesting PH Vote Week. Team Patay, Team Buhay Unconscionable. This is a piece by Father Joel Tabora. 52% inspired and large happy factor also. The Philippines, to get the first to get Firefox OS smartphones, 44% amused, 44% happy, all contributing to the mood of the day. Today, most people are inspired. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Monday, February 25, 2013. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.